You know, Pierce, I have to tell you, it was you in GoldenEye that inspired me to buy my first Amiga Seamaster. Did I ever tell you that?
I don't blame you. It's a good movie. My hair was especially incredible.
I guess so.
Bond never had such impeccable hair. I had the best Bond hair. I mean, let's be honest, right?
Okay. So did they allow you to keep any of the Amiga watches they gave you?
Of course, DGB. I'm a goddamn movie star. Well, I was before that Pan-Bam fiasco.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. What was the slogan? It was something like class never goes out of style, or something like that, right?
It's a bit more like this, though. Class. It never goes out of style.
Nice. So do you still have it?
What, style? Of course. I'm a goddamn movie star.
Yes, I know that. I was referring to the Amiga, the Amiga watches.
Oh, no, that Denise Richards stole it, flogged it on eBay. Besides, Speedmaster pay better, so I wear Speedmaster now. Listen, TGV, let's catch up at a later date. I have to return to the set. I'm in the middle of shooting Mamma Mia 3.
Wow, it's got that bad, huh? Well, I'm sorry, old chap.
Yeah, very funny. Hey, at least it's better than making videos about watches. Please say hello to Hugo for me.
Okay, will do. Okay, ciao.
Later, alligator.
Okay, hi guys, and welcome to the show. Now today I'm going to discuss 5 Amiga watches that in my opinion are the best bargains to buy right now according to the price. What is the date? It's early March 2019, well hopefully by the time you watch this. So the prices are based on the used market, on eBay, Chrono24, so I'm going to use that as a kind of guideline, and we're talking $500 to $2,000. And why Amiga? Well, it pretty much speaks for itself. As you'll see when we go down the list, very few brands have as much variety to choose from, as much historical achievements, and you cannot deny the rich, illustrious, important history. I mean, let's be honest, the brand itself, Amiga, it's well known, it's just a powerhouse of horology. Well, you'll see in just a moment precisely why. And I think also the price, you know, it's one of those luxury Swiss brands that you can actually get into at the $500 mark. Now, before I completely forget, let's do a wristwatch check. Quite fittingly, I'm wearing the Grand Turismo by Dan Henry, the 1964 I have reviewed. Actually, I only just realized, quite fitting for today's video because it's a little bit Amiga inspired. You could say it looks like the 321 Seamaster chronographs, if you remember, from the 60s. Anyway, let's crack on, shall we?
Number 5. The best number it is to be is James Bond.
Okay, number 5 is the Constellation, and they were started in 1952. My favorites are late 50s and the 60s Pi-Pan dial. They are just absolutely beguiling, spectacular, real true luxury watches. From the get-go, they were intended as the flagship for the Amiga line, and they've continued to be so. Part of the requirements to be in this Constellation line, and the name is a clue. And you'll see on the back there was the observatory where they were sent off for trials. They had to be chronometer certified, and so the name is derived from the beautiful stars you'll see engraved above the observatory. Now the solid gold ones, perhaps a little bit out of our price range, but they were, the medallion on the back, they used to be hand engraved. Now they started with the bumper 354 movement, and then in the late 50s they got replaced with the 500 series of movements. 500 is definitely better. depending on which one you get. What I love about the Constellations is those dials. Obviously, there were honeycomb ones, there were crosshead ones, there were markers that were very kind of Art Deco-ish, there were ones with date, without date, and that three-dimensional pipe hand, it's just something. It's very well. It's iconic. It's instantly recognizable. Style, really classy, but without being, you know, flashy. It just exudes sophistication, in my opinion. I mean, obviously, taste is subjective, but yeah, very elegant, very attractive. What else can I say? Well, a huge variety of different lug designs as well, and I think excellent dress watches, especially, or even everyday watches. Now, you're not going to get the solid gold ones. They go for above the $2,000 mark, but you can get steel versions, gold plated. There's two-tone versions, gold capped. Now, the nearer you get to the $2,000 mark, the better condition they're going to be. If you can, look out for ones with the caliber 564, because those have the quick set if you want a date model. So references like the 168004 or perhaps the 168010 were probably the pinnacle in terms of finishing and execution. But you don't have to go with the 50s, 60s mechanical options. There's the electronic ones, which are an absolute bargain. They're more affordable, which I just think is so cool.
Number 4, Scary Door.
Okay, number 4, we have to include any Omega watch with the caliber 30T2. This was predominantly, I would say, in the 1940s, although the caliber, it had a name change, but it was so successful, especially in World War II. In fact, it's the caliber in my little my Spitfire watch. If you want to find out more about that incredible story, have a look at the video I did about the Omegas that saved the world. Because look, they were crucial not only in saving the world, but they were crucial in the fact that they solidified Omega's reputation for reliability, for performance, and was the genesis of historic lines to come, like the Seamaster, which we'll also discuss in just a moment. So these were little manual wind movements, quite rudimentary by today's standards, but you can still pick them up all the way from 500 to 2,000 and beyond. Obviously, those with real military provenance are going to be extremely expensive. The ones with the markings, those are going to be 2,000 beyond. I scored mine with the English-made Denison case. It was about just under $1,000, which is phenomenal. Considering the historicity, I mean, it was worn by a pilot in World War II. You can't really beat that, can you? Now, there's not one particular style. You know, there's the non-military ones. Obviously, are going to be affordable. They have an elegance, that old school class, just three-handers, very simple, but there's a nicer choice of dials. The movement started in 1939, went all the way, I think the last one was in when was it? 1963, that's right. But it went under a different name known as the caliber 260 and 280. But essentially, they're pretty much the same. Oh, and one thing to notice, these were, of course, in-house, just like the previous calibers used in the Constellation. So you also get that tick, you know, and in my opinion, this was really the pinnacle. The Constellation, the 40s and 50s was the pinnacle of Omega, and arguably it was one of the best Swiss brands at the time. The more I learn about Omega, the more I value this period especially, and feel proud to own a watch of that era. There's an authenticity to it, you know, that look, I love modern Omegas too. I love the Bond watches and all the rest of the Speedies, but I don't know, there's something about wearing a watch from the 40s and 50s especially. But anyway, let's move on.
Number 3, I'm a goddamn movie star.
Okay, number 3, we have quite an acquired taste. It's the Omega Dynamic. Now, these are quite bizarre looking, I guess you could say oval-shaped watches. They came out in 1968 and went into the 70s. Stylistically, they're very late 60s, early 70s in their aesthetic. Okay, a bit of a Marmite watch, but you cannot deny that it's unlike anything else out there. They're an absolute bargain because they are quite an acquired taste. Not everybody rushes to buy them. So the design was inspired by the shape of the wrist. They always had these very interesting kind of semi-integrated bracelets that you could change out with the straps that you have to buy specially for the watch. The crown is always integrated into the case. That way doesn't disrupt the line and curvature and flow of the design. They were intended as a kind of sports watch, often sold with kind of racing straps. You know, just fun. I mean, that's what's important about the dynamic. It is fun. Now you can buy some of these from about 500 to 2000 easily. I like the manual wind with the 600 series movements, but also look out for the automatics with the 1000 series movements. Those are from a little bit later. The 70s 1000 series movements, you get the day date, which is very practical, obviously. They're a little bit finicky, the 1000. The later 1000 movements are better, so do keep that in mind. I've had problems with them in the past. The dials are always very interesting with these kind of sections and bright colors, those beautiful stick seconds hand, often in a kind of blue or orange. Something a bit lively, something a bit different. Definitely a conversation piece, but an absolute bargain nonetheless. There's, I think, about 3 generations of dynamic, the latest being in the late 90s. But they all had vivid colors. The last generation, I think they went back to like more traditional style. I think chronographs as well, but yeah, those are more expensive. One of Omega's many kind of oddball lines of watches.
Number 2, what I go in the morning after my coffee.
We cannot make this list without the Speedmaster, obviously. I mean, it's arguably it's one of the most iconic watches ever of all time. I think in last year's UGWC poll, it was actually voted the most iconic watch, the Moon one, of course, of all time, narrowly beating the Submariner by, I think, only a few hundred votes. But anyway, now, you're not going to get the Speedy Pro, but you can get a never-ending choice of automatics. So as we know, they debuted in 1957 as part of that trilogy. You could say quadrilogy if you want to include the Lancero, but anyway, it was part of a revitalization of the brand, originally as a racing watch, and then the official choice of NASA, beating Longines, Rolex, and I think it was Hamilton as well in 1964. I'm not going to get into the whole story with the 321 and the 1861 and all the rest of it, but the ones to really look out for here are the automatic, the reduced. I've owned many of them. I've also owned the professional. Now you can still get the 35, 10, 50. This is the pre-Sapphire one with the 50-meter water resistance and the 60-minute markers on the dial. Unfortunately, and this is a sign of the times, I call it the reduced 2, which is the 35, 39, 50. That's over $2,000. Those are getting kind of hard to get now, approaching $3,000. That has the 100 meters water resistance sapphire crystal and the cleaner, more professional-esque dial. These are great because they're in the smaller size, so if you want a professional but it's too large, because the professional is 42, the 39 millimeter reduced is going to be perfect for you. We've got the caliber, the automatic caliber with the Dubuis de Poix module on it. Also check out the triple dates. I think this is perhaps the best value Speedmaster in this line, because of the sheer amount of complication you get for the money. So have a look at the 39, 20, 50, or the Mark 40 with the black 3220, or the 3523 with the blue dial. Now, if you're really lucky, you might even be able to score a Mark 4. And why are they so special? I mean, this is really pushing it at the $2,000 mark, but they have the Lemania 5100. It's the same Lemania in my Fortis, the official Cosmonaut. They're great. I think the way they display time elapsed in the chronograph with that jet minute hand, I call it, is just so cool. For Amiga, they call it the Caliber 1045, I think. But anyway, you might be able to score one. It's got that kind of funky, redesigned case that is a little bit kind of space age, I guess, but very lovable, very charming. Certainly one to look out for is the X33, which is, you'll see astronauts wearing the modern versions today. You might be able to get a slightly older one. These are Ani-Digi Speedmasters, essentially. Yes, a bit of an acquired Marmite taste of a watch, but they are very cool in my opinion. Yeah, those are bigger as well. And we cannot neglect to mention the Speedmaster reduced automatics, the racing versions. You can get special editions that commemorate racing car drivers like my Schumacher I had back in the day. Those are going up, as you would imagine, which kind of is nice because it goes back to the roots of the Speedmaster. You know, before it became a space-going watch, it was a racing watch, of course.
Number 1, just like me, at the box office, to die another day.
Okay, number 1, it can only be, well, you guessed it, yeah, the Seamaster line. Amiga's longest continuous running line. I think they were started in 1948. As we mentioned earlier, the Caliber 30 T2, which was really the genesis of this line. The Seamaster was born from earning the reputation in World War II. And they released it also to commemorate the 100th year anniversary of Amiga, which was 1948, and they were the official Olympic timekeeper as well. So it all kind of ties in. What a start. But of course, the Seamaster, it didn't start as a dive watch. It became a diver in 1957, but before then you can get beautiful manual wind versions that are more dressy and elegant, but don't be deceived. They are tough watches. In fact, what distinguished the Seamaster from its predecessors was the O-ring gasket, which improved its water resistance. Legend has it they drew inspiration for this technology from the submarines of World War II. This gasket enabled, obviously for water resistance, but also greater resistance to temperature variation. So much so that Amiga's engineers actually strapped the prototypes to the outside of a plane and flew it over the North Pole, and the watch still worked absolutely fine. So yeah, they are tough cookies as indeed. Now, I did a whole history on the Seamaster because it's such a rich legacy when I reviewed one of the 300 Professionals, the newer incarnation. But have a look back, it's an amazing story. So from 57 onwards, it became a diver. It was used by the Royal Navy and famously issued to the SAS, the SBS. So it's really earned its reputation, and in so many different ways. And that's the wonderful thing about the Seamaster, and that's why it's number 1, because they've always been durable, but also you get so much different kind of versions or interpretations of the Seamaster. You got the early manual wind versions of the 40s and 60s with the 200 series, and the early bumpers with the 300 series. Then you got the second generation of automatics, which are the 400 and 500 series. Again, all in-house, fantastic calibers from the heyday of Amiga. You really can't go wrong with them. Have a look at the Cosmics from the 70s. These are going for absolutely dirt cheap right now, closer to the $500 mark. Some of them have quite interesting, intricate dials with crosshairs and some lovely sunburst effects. Some of the more expensive ones feature the 1000 series, so you get day date, etc. If we go with the contemporary Amigas, pre-Bond, we're looking at the reference 2264, quartz variations, and sometimes you can even find the 2234 GMT version, which is a cool complication to have in a dive watch. Now, when it comes to Bond, well, it's iconic, it's instantly recognizable, and you cannot deny the rich, illustrious, important history. So you can still get the professional automatic, but Pierce wore the first Bond in GoldenEye. It was quartz. Let's not forget that the mid-size is famously worn by Prince William, given to him by the late great Princess Diana. Those are from about 1,000 to 2,000. There's the Seamaster 120, which is kind of cool. And for something more dressy, you have, of course, the Seamaster DeVille's to choose from as well. So as you can see, so much history, so much choice. So I'm going to wrap it up there, but yeah, that's basically it. Yeah, let me know which you think is the best Amiga to hunt for on the used market under $2,000, from $500 to $2,000. I'd love to hear your suggestions, so please share your nominations in the comments. Let's try and help out as many of the good Gentry as we can. So without further ado, I'm going to leave it there. Don't forget to add your thoughts, queries, comments, opinions, all the rest of it down below. Please don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it and found it useful, and as always guys, I will catch you in the next one. Okay, ciao.